Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, and today I have a special treat for you. My dear friend, Erin Worrall of Cedar Farm in Virginia, is going to join me today to chat about farming solo, plus starting a farm as a mom from a homesteading background and bringing in help, and actually quite a bit more than that. We covered a lot in this chat. Erin is the best. So let's do it. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. I've got some fun stuff for us to talk about. So the topic I thought we would kick the day off with is farming solo. And I guess maybe just calibrate us a little bit to start. Maybe describe your farm, how much land you're on, and the extent of help you started with versus what you have now, just to kind of give us an idea.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my farm is in total about 4 acres, but I'm cultivating about 2/3 of an acre. This is my 4th season, and the name of my farm is the Cedar Farm. I'm in Southwest Virginia. But so I started 4 years ago on, I would say it was a 1/4 acre, entirely outside, field production only by myself. And it was a 35-member CSA. And about halfway through the season, realized like, oh, I'm actually growing way more veggies than the CSA needs. And so I started at the farmer's market midway that summer. So then moving into season 2, I got my first tunnel that added a little bit more growing space. I still did it by myself, bigger market production, same CSA size. And then last year, I built 2 more pretty significant tunnels and then opened up more of a bulk growing space for pumpkins and sweet corn. And that's where I landed around the 2/3 that I'm at right now. I also brought on my first help. I had 2 part-time employees, each at 10 hours a week, and then a couple friends that kind of volunteered with harvest for an hour or 2 each week. We're in season 4 right now. I'm like 6 weeks into market, and I'm entirely like a market style CSA now, which is a little bit different. I'm not packing boxes the same way. And I imagine that some of the reasons for that will come up in our conversation later. But this year I have 1 employee. He's here 10 hours a week. And then another friend who's volunteering kind of for in exchange for veggies for 3 to 4 hours a week. So a little bit less labor helping me. It's predominantly me. I'd love more help, but also I have a budget. So
Yeah. Okay. So wait, that market style CSA, let's go ahead and describe that because I'm fascinated. And was that a decision based on your labor sort of, or was that like can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I started it last year as a trial, and what I'm using is I use Square as my point of sales platform, and you can purchase gift cards through Square. And so I'm using these gift cards sort of as a membership card. People buy in at a certain dollar amount, and I made those dollar amounts the same as, the packed box CSA shares. And all that money gets added on the front end of the season, and then they just spend it down over the course of the year. And I did it because I still am using my minivan to get all of the produce to market. And as the operation has grown and as my popularity at market has grown, my sales have grown, I just was running out of space in my van, and I couldn't logistically bring all of the packed CSA boxes for market pickup along with all of the produce that I was going to sell at the market. And so just for the sake of space efficiency, I was like, if I can bring all these veg in the harvest totes, not in boxes with people's name on them, then I can bring more stuff. And then it turned into, oh, actually, they could just pick what they want and fill their own bag based on that dollar amount. And it worked so well. Everybody loved the flexibility of it. They loved that if they went on vacation, there was like no week to miss or keep track of. And I liked that it saved me the logistics of packing their boxes. And so I moved entirely to that model this year. I'm not packing any more boxes anymore.
Yeah, nice.
Wash my hands.
Okay, so take us back to that first year. You did that first year pretty much solo, right? Like that was just totally you, and you said it was like 3/4 of an acre, 35-member CSA, and then at the end you kind of tacked on. Like, talk a little bit about what that experience was like in year 1.
hmm I was really flying by the seat of my pants. I don't think I knew a lot about, I mean, I'd done all the research. I had been homestead scale gardening for several years. And so the production side of things wasn't too big of a leap. What I learned hard and fast is that there are so many ways to be efficient that you don't ever have to consider as a home gardener. And otherwise, you're just going to spend all your time in the garden. I mean, we still do. But uh, yeah, I was mostly just, I made a crop plan and I hoped that it would work. But you're learning, how much does one bed actually produce of salad mix? Is that enough or not too much? How often do I have to, start a new succession of something? So it was really a lot of trial and error, a lot of note taking. And I, just for the sake of figuring it out, planted a lot more than I assumed I would need. And that was sort of my buffer. And that did turn out to be true. And that's why I ended up also at the farmer's market mid-season.
So you said in year 2, right, that you brought somebody on?
Year 3.
Year 3. That transition to actually having a little bit of help, what was that experience like in terms of, just your managing your own time or managing their time? Like what was that sort of transition like?
Yeah, it was a need of, I mean, just practicality, getting everything out of the field fast enough. My harvests were too big for me to manage on my own, but it was also really like a lesson in, I have to protect and preserve my body. This is the most important and valuable asset I have on the farm. And I'm all human scale. I don't have a tractor. Every wheelbarrow of compost on every bed is getting moved and, by hand, broad forked. And that's just a lot on a single body. And so that was the biggest thing for me, was just having extra hands and arms that could put in some of that, really like the sweat equity, the grunt labor. But it's also just, I'm pretty extroverted person and farming is a really solo task. And so I found that by the time I got to year 3 and the honeymoon phase was sort of wearing off about this like thing I was creating, I really needed and thrived having people also to work alongside me, keep my motivation, be excited, teach new things too. So it really helped in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of it. And certainly no one told me when I was starting out that I should really take care of my body. I mean, not no one, but it wasn't like present of mine. So I'm impressed and encouraged that you actually, that was on your mind so early on.
I think part of that is I got into farming a little bit later. I'm in my late 30s. And I think when you're in your early 20s and you're starting a farming career, you can abuse yourself a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you also don't listen to advice when you're in your 20s. You're just like, they don't know. They don't know.
So true.
I'm curious, like, just to dig in a little bit more on that managerial stuff, because one of the things I found with having an employee was like figuring out how to manage my time well so that I was doing stuff while they were being efficient and that I didn't feel like I was just kind of like walking around making lists or like trying, you know what I mean? Like, was there that sort of experience for you, or how did you kind of manage that?
Yeah, it's true. When you bring on someone to help, you are spending just as much time thinking about how to use their time as you were when you were doing the time yourself. You know what I mean? You do have to prepare well and make sure you have tasks lined up so that you're getting kind of top dollar for your investment in their labor. I specifically brought the girls on to help me with the harvest. I knew that was going to be the biggest thing. So it was a time of the week when the labor was going to be really specific and I could train them specifically on different crops and then on wash pack. And then they would come a second day in the week after the market. We would do more of those heavy farming tasks. And so, would spend a little bit of time preparing before those days to have, I don't know, the compost ordered or the tools lined up for whatever we were going to do and sort of have a plan for using that time well. But the biggest thing for me was the harvest. And so I scheduled their work time around when I knew I would need that assistance.
Yeah, that's good. I heard, maybe it was Ben Hartman or somebody saying that, like, when you hire employees, bring them in to do only things that add value, like very specific tasks like packing produce or selling it, or in this case, harvesting, like those very specific tasks that you need help to do more of so that you can add value to your farm and bring in more revenue. So that's awesome, Erin. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will get a question from one of our Patreon members, BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Precip. Precip is billed as the easiest way to keep track of rainfall, and that is true, but it is a lot more than that. Sure, you can open the app and immediately see accurate rainfall totals, but you can also save locations to see historical rainfall totals, wind speeds, and all sorts of other nerdy details. Their radar-based technology means you can ditch the rain gauge. I usually have to do that anyway because the kids find a way to smash it with a baseball bat. You can ditch the rain gauge and start tracking rain and other growing conditions all on your phone. Click the link in the show notes to find out more. Today's episode is also brought to you by FarmRaise. Still using QuickBooks for your farm's bookkeeping? You're wasting time and losing money. Farm finances can be overwhelming, but they don't have to be. FarmRaise Tracks is the all-in-one tool built just for farmers. Manage expenses, prep for taxes, run payroll, and plan for the future without spreadsheets or stress. Just clear, organized insights to keep your operation thriving. Thousands of farmers trust Tracks to make smart financial decisions all year long. It's time you did too. Use code NOTIL20, that's all caps, no spaces, NOTIL20 for 20% off the life of your membership at farmraise.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes from Patreon member Katya, and apologies for how long it took me to get to this one, Katya, but I found the right person for it, I believe. Katya writes, quote, "How do young mothers find their way into and stay in farming among all the other things they have to do? I am a mother of two, 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Started a homestead 7 years ago, and I'm ready, knowledge, determination, experience, capital to scale up at least to part-time business, except for that I am not. Is it even possible to find enough mental space and focus to build something like a farming business as a mother being the sole brain of it all? Jesse, would you have a guest in your arsenal who would like to talk about their experience? I mean, specifically starting a farm business at this stage of life, not sustaining it or transforming it when the kids arrive. Likely not possible, quote unquote. Might just be a legitimate, really helpful answer here. Thank you, Kay." End quote. Okay, so Erin, no pressure there. What do you think about this question? What comes to mind?
Well, I think I'm the perfect person to talk about it because when I started the farm 4 years ago, my kids, I have 4 of them, were 2, 6, and 9, somewhere in there. So they're now 6, 6, 10, and 13 in year 4 for me. So I definitely relate to this phase of life that she's talking about. And it is exceptionally hard. I think women can do anything. So I'm not going to say no is not the right answer, but I think it's really wise and smart to be thinking about all of the ways that your other responsibilities, whether you're a parent or a partner or you have any other role in your community, is going to be impacted by a business decision like this. Because the reality is a farm is just as needy as your children. And I think I'm imagining that because she is so eager to start this farm business now, it's a big passion. And so it's like this burning desire in you to start something new when you also have sort of this concurrent calling to your family and taking care of your kids. I would say the biggest things are having a partner that's on board. I think she phrased it as being the sole brain. And honestly, the sole brain part was less hard for me than being the sole labor. I still, in a lot of ways, can still be the sole brain. And I think moms are superheroes and they can carry a lot of things mentally. But having support, whether that's a neighbor or a friend that wants to join you on the venture, like you don't have to do it alone. And I would just say that, especially if you're in a season of life where you've got a lot of external needs, having friends that can help you is going to be critical. But yeah.
And Katja mentioned, having several years, I think, of homesteading experience like that. You had mentioned that sort of played in. Is there anything you can elaborate on in that, like maybe how that helped or some of the pitfalls that maybe come along with it?
Sure. Yeah. Homesteading experience helped me a lot because I knew a lot about the plants that I was growing. I knew about the crops, the weeds, the pests, those sorts of things. But it changes really when you're trying to make it a profitable business. And one of the most important things, I think, when you're starting a business is knowing what you need that business to do financially to be worth whatever you're putting into it, especially if what you're putting into it is taking time away from young children. not away. That's not what I mean. Do you know what I mean? But if it's going to be something that you have to hold concurrently. And so homesteading, you kind of have the luxury of things working out when they do and not working out when they don't. And maybe you might grow 50 varieties of tomatoes because you like all of the flavors of them. But if you're going to do this for a business, you're probably going to pick, like the three things that work, and you're going to do them on a single liter in some really efficient way. And so you have a lot of knowledge from homesteading, but it is not the same. And I think all of the strategic decision making that you have to do when you're transitioning from this hobby sort of home scale thing to a business it's a lot on your brain and your body. And so you just, doing it with kids, it's just, it's really hard. I don't know what else to say. It's really hard, but I don't think that means you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, sure. It's hard for everybody. And, and it's like starting any business, but with a good plan, I think that certainly helps, and some amount of experience from the homesteading. Along the lines of the kiddos, our biggest solution was a trampoline, it turns out, because it's like a giant playpen. But
us too.
It's the best. I recommend it to everybody who has kids. Trampolines for the win. And in fact, this as a side note, I'm obsessed with the Netherlands, and I spend random amounts of time like just looking at stuff in the Netherlands. And I've never been there, but they put their trampolines, they like bury them. And so they have like a pit underneath them or whatever. And so there's no netting around it, so you can just like run and jump on the trampoline, and there's but anyway, love that idea. But yeah, is there infrastructure? Are there ideas that you've found to be helpful, or, with the children, are there ways you incorporate them into the garden, or are there ways that you kind of keep them occupied from not necessarily, derailing garden work? Yeah. Anything along those lines?
Yeah. I mean, people have so many different philosophies on parenting, and there's no right way. Mine's not the right way. But I personally, when I set out to do this, thought, this is my business. It's not my children's responsibility. And so I'm never going to force them to be involved in any way that they're not excited about. They don't have to be with me. They don't have to help. That's just my own personal conviction. And also, sometimes when they do want to help, it's not the most helpful. So I generally tend to farm without my kids unless it's a task that they're going to really delight in and they can't super mess up, like planting sugar snap peas, or they like to help me harvest some things sometimes. The bulk of my farming happens in the summer when my kids are home from school, so they are here at the house all of the time. I'm really fortunate that my partner's job is at a university, and so during the summer, he is working from home. And honestly, he takes on a lot of the primary parenting during that time because I don't think that I could do the things that I'm doing at the scale that I'm doing them with my kids, in the garden with me. At this time in life. And my kids are bigger too. They're a little more independent. This question was asked by someone with really small children, and 3-year-olds they don't have boundaries when it comes to not pulling up, your really important crops or messing with your irrigation or whatever the thing is. So yeah, my kids they're always welcome. They know what they are allowed to have and participate in and what they can't. We do have a trampoline. That's a big one. We also put up like a playhouse right next to the garden area. So when they want to be outside with me, they can be there. But my parenting and my active farming time, I would say, are pretty separated for the most part.
Yeah. We had a 3-year-old, one of our 3-year-olds. When they were 3, I guess is a more accurate way of putting that, just had a pair of scissors in the side of the high tunnel, had found a pair of scissors and just... I mean, it had to be so fun for them, but
yep. I had the exact same hole in my high tunnel from a pair of scissors from my youngest.
Yeah, that's great. So expect that.
Yep.
That's awesome. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about some of the tools that make this solo farming thing possible. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. I started a CSA to grow food and build community, not to drown in admin work. Spreadsheets, emails, and pack lists take up too much time. If I could spend less time at my desk and more in the field, that'd be a win. Enter Farmhand. Farmhand automates billing, newsletters, websites, and member support, saving CSA farmers 20 plus hours a week. Focus on farming, not paperwork. See how Farmhand can help. Book a one-on-one demo with founder Ari at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peaceful Heritage Nursery. If you're looking for hardy and resilient fruit trees, berry plants, or pawpaw trees, then check out Peaceful Heritage Nursery. Peaceful Heritage Nursery LLC is a mail-order nursery shipping premium quality fruit trees and berry plants across the USA. They specialize in resilient, non-GMO plant genetics for small growers. Their diverse selection includes berries, cold hardy figs, passion fruits, gumi, mulberry, and much more. They're famous for their diverse selection of premium quality grafted pawpaw trees. 5-star Google ratings and customer testimonials attest to their commitment to excellence in quality and service. Find them at peacefulheritage.com and join the mailing list. Once again, find them at peacefulheritage.com. Use the promo code NOTILL for 10% off your first order. All right, back to the show. All right, so Erin, when you're farming solo, you have to be obviously like really smart about your time and efficiency. So I'm curious, tool-wise, what are some things that have been super helpful for that? Some of the things that have like done the trick for you in that department, and maybe some that you kind of wish you had.
Yeah, the most obvious, easiest answer for me is the Jang Cedar. I did not have it my first year of production, and I hand seeded every single thing that went into the field, every carrot, every radish. And it would take me a couple of hours to plant a single bed of carrots because I didn't want to have to come back and thin it. So I was spacing them out. And then I invested in the Jang year 2, and I literally cried the first time that I planted a bed of carrots in like 4 minutes. I couldn't believe how much time I had wasted doing that. So I think for me, the Cedar has been for far and away the biggest time saver, most efficient thing. I also think this is not entirely a tool, but my high tunnels, I mean, they made such a difference in the productivity of the farm. They cut down on pest pressure. I do a better job keeping things weeded because they're just like mentally in their own space. And I was able to, I built kind of a DIY one second year, but I've been fortunate enough to have an NRCS grant every year since. I'm up to 5 tunnels now. And I would say doing it by myself, it was incredible to have these like smaller pockets of space to mentally manage. But also now that I have employees, it's also that's an efficiency and kind of an organization of the farm that has helped a ton. Because you can do everything from like trellis your cukes and your tomatoes better than you can in the field to throwing up exclusionary netting on certain crops. It's really been a huge labor and time saver for me to have these like enclosed growing areas.
Yeah. There's so many benefits to it, and it just makes so many things easier. Is there anything that you're thinking now that you would really like to have, or maybe even have somebody invent? What's missing on your farm right now in terms of tools?
I think they're invented, but what's missing for me is a better, more efficient wash pack setup. That's something that I am still sort of bootstrapping and can waste a lot of time and feel just sort of obnoxious to do when you don't feel like you have the right tools. So things like a root washer rather than hand spraying every bunch of carrots with the hose would be so lovely. A bigger, salad greens bubbler, stuff that can just move things in faster quantities. Those are the things I could really start to benefit from.
Yeah, I think that's an area that's really easy to have bottlenecks. Because I think it gets under designed for for all of us, because you're like, I need to grow food. I can figure the rest out later, because that's what I did. That's what we did. Right.
Yeah.
And then you get it to the wash pack and you're like, all right, well, at first I'm just going to use these buckets that I have. And then you buy like a hand spinner for your salad mix, whatever. But that becomes a very significant portion of your time is spent just literally washing and packing things. Yeah.
It also makes such a huge, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It also just makes such a huge difference in the quality of your product. Like the length of time that your salad mix can last is greatly impacted by how well you processed it. And that comes down to like customer satisfaction. It really does matter a lot.
One question I had in regards to the Jang, you mentioned that being like just, completely a game changer for you. Did you anywhere in that period try the Earthway either? Because I get this question a lot, like, is the Jang a necessity over the Earthway? Or you just kind of went straight to the Jang?
I went straight to the Jang. People ask me that question all the time too. I have never used another Cedar. I just heard enough experienced growers that I really admired their operation saying this is the one that you're going to wish that you had and it's worth it. And so rather than kind of making this smaller investment before working my way up, I was like, I'm just going to do what I want at the beginning.
Yeah. It's funny because your story of going from like hand seeding to, crying, pushing the Jang, it rings like that's the story I'm always telling people that I didn't necessarily go directly from, because when I started learning how to farm, I had, the farmer that I was working for had the Earthway and stuff. So I kind of had experience with that. And then I definitely could see how much better or more, efficient, more easier to push, all those things that the Jang was than the Earthway. But I didn't have necessarily that experience of going from like literally hand seeding a bed of carrots to pushing the Jang through, which would have been incredible. So yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to have that anecdote to be able to tell people, but also like there are tools like that and in that you experience, like you're going through something, you're cultivating or you're seeding or whatever, and it's very slow. And there are tools that can improve that process, but there is some value to having gone through it the hard way to begin with, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought of one other thing that I would love to have.
Sure.
When I'm thinking about, so philosophically, right, when you're farming solo, so much of your farm can just become your life. And I think as I've become a healthier person who is also a farmer, who also farms at my home, it's been as my mind has changed about like separating my farm business from me as an individual and like creating some distinction there. And so one thing that I'm working on this year is moving my farm transport out of my personal vehicle. And so I would say like some kind of van or trailer or something that belongs to the farm business. And I don't have to unload like all of my market tables and signage and packaging and everything out of my car so I can drive my kids to soccer, like every week. That is such a mental slog for me. And it feels like it's encroaching at all times. There's microgreen seeds all over the floor of the van because I've spilled so many trays in there. And so, yes, that's one thing that's missing that I think will make a really big difference to me just in quality of life and like mental sustainability.
That's an interesting one. One, I appreciate that you're taking them to soccer. But two, I think people maybe don't realize that you can get a loan for, like, we got ours through Ag Credit for a Honda Odyssey that we used for the van, just exclusively for the farm, because that was the perfect fit for us for the amount of produce we were taking. We could fit about $2,000 worth of produce in one of those vans because they're so well designed, and you just take out the seats or whatever, and they run forever. So it turned out that we were able to get that loan for like basically a family van through the Ag Credit to be able to use for the farm, which, I don't know. Some people probably think about van. I don't know what kind of van you got. And some people may think, I need a Sprinter. I need one of these, like larger whatever vans. And I think maybe eventually a lot of people will, but, there is also that option of getting like low interest loans for, I don't know, smaller vehicles like that.
Yeah. I think it's definitely worth it to be able to have something that can like stay farm use and not have to transition every week back and forth to make your personal life possible.
Yeah. I agree with that. Erin, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a blast.
Yeah, I've had so much fun. Thank you. Soft blonde, pink bust and shoulders, page 55. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Make sure to follow Erin's work on Instagram and all the places. We will hook it up with links in the show notes. Don't forget, we at No Till Growers are now officially a 501c3, so donations
are tax deductible. Greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes as well. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and the team at No Till Growers. Also shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook or the Seed Farmer at no-tillgrowers.com to support us as well. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of, what are we in? June, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Joseph Legault, Mike Fairservice above the Dam Farm, and Hood Family Farm. All right, so, well, obviously, when you live in a town that is a secret and you enjoy it and you want to kind of keep it secret, part of the way in which the Kansatonians, their name, not mine, do that is by not only growing a thick forest, but growing a dense barrier of briars and a nearly impenetrable thicket all around with just a few entrances and exits hidden from view. Also, all of their houses are underground, so even heat sensors would struggle to pick them up unless they were just looking for them. The townspeople have also purchased all the surrounding land, which they coyly rent out to sunflower farmers who couldn't care less about the, rocky, mysterious thicket because of the excellent price they get on the rental land around there. They couldn't care less at all. They couldn't care less, that is, until one farmer fell asleep at the wheel of his tractor and drove right into town. Just not a town he knew existed. And that is for tomorrow on Visiting the Kansatonians. Visiting the Kansatonians. Sure. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. Shouts to Erin for joining me. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.